Hello, 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 and welcome to my podcast, Life with Jode, where we talk about anything and everything. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to Becca, a lovely lady from the weight loss community who is coming on to talk to us about multiple different topics. What topics will we be talking about? We're going to be talking about her weight loss journey, pageantry, and Miss Bariatric, along with bipolar and PTSD, which is something she's been suffering with for a very long time, and being a SEN parent to two out of her 3 children. We are going to be doing this in 2 parts because we have chatted for so long. Part 1 is all going to be about weight loss surgery, pageantry, and Miss Bariatric. And part 2 is all going to be about bipolar, PTSD, and SEN parenting. And without further ado, let's start episode 2 and let's welcome Becca.
So I'm Becca, I am 32 years old, I'm from Kent, I'm a mum to 3 girls, had to think for a second, and I work in a nursery.
How old are your children?
So my eldest is 14, my middle is 9, and my youngest is very close to 4.
So you got your hands full then, let's just put it that way.
Absolutely, I sure do. I think I've got every 3 difficult ages you could possibly have.
If you want to let everyone know your social media handles so they can search you up later.
Yes, so I am on Instagram. My Instagram is actually Becca, and it's like a little line, VSG. So obviously for surgery.
It will be put in the comments below, like the description below, so people can find it.
Perfect, thank you. And then my TikTok is Miss Bariatric Kent.
It sure is.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain it is. If not, you can just type in Becca Jane and it will come up.
Again, any social media that you have, I will put it in the description. So
Thank you.
Yeah. The first topic of conversation today is your bipolar and PTSD.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a bit of a background on it? When you got diagnosed, how you got diagnosed, and all that jazz?
Yeah, so PTSD was diagnosed coming up to 8 years ago. That was purely because I went through quite a horrific attack. So that was kind of that was destined to happen, is the only way I could say it, because of what I went through. The bipolar, I've always had the traits of bipolar, like the risky behaviour as a teenager, the trouble. I was just, no one could understand why I kind of acted the way I did, me included. And whenever we went to like doctors and this, that, and the other, they were very much, oh, it's just depression and anxiety. And then I moved here from Liverpool 13 years ago, and I they call it a mania, a high. And I started doing silly things again, taking risks and that. And then we went back to the doctors. My auntie actually dragged me there because she was a mental health nurse. And she was like, no, come on, we need help. Okay. So I went there. Once again, they said depression, anxiety. No one would listen. And then my last daughter, so it was 4 years ago, during pregnancy, completely deteriorated into like this really bad depressive episode. Probably the worst one I've ever had. Couldn't cope with the pregnancy. Everything was negative. And then it was my husband that actually reached out to my doctors and said, enough is enough. The medication you've been just given her left, right and centre doesn't work. And then they eventually listened and they put us in touch with, it's like a place called MIM, so it's like Mother and Infant Mental Health. They ran an assessment. They said it was borderline personality disorder. But then we went, after I had my daughter, another mania kind of happened, and they monitored me for a year. And I didn't even know they were monitoring me. I didn't even know that they were making like a little note every time of what I was doing, how often it was happening. And then they pulled me in and they went, you don't actually have borderline personality disorder. And I was like, oh, okay, what is it, depression? Because that's all I've ever been told. And they were like, no, you actually have type 2 bipolar. I was like, excuse me? Instantly, I'm like, oh my God, bipolar. Oh my God, because there's such a stigma around it. no one's going to like me. No one's going to want to be friends with me. No one's going to, all these different things. I'm never going to get a job. I'm never going to do anything. But they completely reassured me that actually it's nothing like that. And it does turn out to be nothing like that.
I do believe, obviously, like you said, there's a stigma around it, and also
Mm-hmm.
movies, TV shows that
Yeah.
obviously try to raise awareness of
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that do play it to the worst that it can be.
Yeah, I think the thing with it though that frustrates me, having learnt about it, done all of the counselling, I've had so much help around it, and I've had to kind of educate myself a little bit to understand me better. A lot of people don't realise there's two types of bipolar, not just one. And unfortunately, like movies, soaps, this, that, and the other don't explain the two types. They just say it's a bipolar. It's a bipolar storyline. That's about it. But yeah, there's two types. So you've got like type 1, which is more mania, more dangerous, is what they call it. Like the manias can be really dangerous. And then you've got type 2, which is more depressive. So you don't have as many manic episodes than you do manias. Depressive. Yeah. Get it right. Come on.
I get it. I'm following.
I'm glad you are.
So,
But yeah.
like you said, you've done therapy to kind of like help understand yourself a little bit better. Is there anything else you've done? Is there any sort of, because this is new to me myself, is there any sort of medications that you could possibly take or have taken or anything like that?
Yeah, there's loads of medications. I've been on quite a lot. I was on the main one that they actually prescribe you is one which is like a quetiapine, which is obviously a antipsychotic. I was on that for 3 years, but they just kept kind of upping and upping and upping because it wouldn't stabilize me, is what they call it. I was still in a depressive more episodes. And then it got to a point where I was on a really high dosage of it. And I just didn't like it. I felt like I had no emotion. I felt like I was zombified is the only way. I didn't want to socialize. I just kind of sat there like a zombie. No one could even get me to smile. It was horrendous. The worst thing I ever did. So I did come off that. That was quite nasty coming off that. So I wouldn't personally touch that again. It didn't work for me, but it does work for others. Just want to make that kind of known, like what works for others might not work for other people. But yeah, there is multiple medications. I've tried loads of different ones. I couldn't even tell you half of the names because I can't pronounce them. Let me just kind of Google it and try to spell it and hope it comes up in the search bar. That's usually what happens. But yeah, I did unfortunately get quite a lot of side effects from quite a lot of them. So I have gone down the approach now of being unmedicated. I've kind of gone down the approach of more of a holistic view. So I've tried like meditating more, yoga, this and funny enough, that's really helped. I do have my lows. I'm not saying it's fixed me because it hasn't, but I can kind of try to get myself out of that vicious cycle. But I'm really lucky that my husband notices it before I do now. So he can kind of go, well, actually, come on, let's go for a walk or let's do this. And sometimes that can really help me. But there is other times where it's like, just don't talk to me. Leave me alone. Stay in bed. Don't want to move. Don't talk to me. But I've lived with this since I was probably about, as far as I can remember, I'd probably say I was about 7.
But
I was
then
very young.
not
Yeah.
got a diagnosis until 4 years?
Until, 4 years ago. Yeah, so I was 28. Yeah.
I do feel like doctors and GPs don't like to put a firm diagnosis on anyone under the age of 18.
Nope.
So I know it can be frustrating. It took me forever to get a firm diagnosis.
Get ahead. Yeah.
Anxiety and depression. Even my acne. I used to suffer really bad with acne, and it took until I got 3 acne cysts on my face for them to actually take me seriously. And it's
It's hard. It is so hard because a part of me like sits there, and obviously I've had to kind of manage it by myself, but at the same time I do kind of like, it's sassy, but I kind of hold a little bit of resentment because unfortunately I didn't do well in school. I didn't really attend school because I made silly decisions. And I think if I would have known what it was and understood more at that time, I probably could have got the help around that so that I could have done better in school, or I could have had better friendships with people and not done the things that I did. Does that make sense? So a part of me does hold that little bit of resentment of why, no matter how many times my mum took me to the doctors or my dad took me to the doctors, nobody listened. But at the same time, it's handy now because I do have children. So actually, much rather, I'm glad I know now, because I can kind of educate my children around it, that actually some teenagers having a teenager might actually show signs of this, and this is how you can help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So,
completely.
and she's helped quite, bless her. My teenager's fantastic. She's really, really good. She understands me probably better than I understand me, to be completely honest with you. Sometimes she just goes, "Oh, Mum, just stop being dramatic." Okay. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's life, isn't it?
The relationship dynamics with everyone, with obviously suffering with bipolar and PTSD, obviously, walk me through that for you.
So the bipolar, a lot of people struggle with it. More so, I'd say, because of how I can be. I can really get in my head, and then I can sit there and think, oh my God, I've like said something out of line when I haven't. Or I know I'll be like, they don't like in my head, it'll be like, they don't actually like you. So then I naturally push away. But I do have a very close circle that I can just be completely open and go, listen, this is what my head is telling me. Just be honest with me, blah, blah, blah. And they will reassure me and be like, no, that your head's being silly again and all of this. And they're quite, tell your brain to shut up. That's what they tell me all the time. I'm like, okay, yeah, I will. I'll do that. My husband struggled for quite a long time until he's learned about it as well. He's took it upon himself to really educate himself. I have lost family members. I've lost friends over it because they just don't like, because I can be quite straight up. Sometimes I don't think before I speak and I just say it how it is.
I do feel like
Yeah.
it's also a day-to-day issue because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I've got to a point now in my life where I'm just like, I'm sick of everyone's shit. I'm going to tell
Yeah.
people how it is. And if they don't like it,
Oh, that's down to them.
tough shit.
Yeah. The truth hurts
But
in
make
my
sense
eyes.
of what I've said.
Yeah.
Take it over your head.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
listen to what I'm saying, but don't cause, like, don't
Yeah.
read too much into it. Or
Exactly.
take harm in what I've said. Well, that's on you, not on me.
Yeah, literally. But then I do have a lot of people that actually prefer it. Quite a lot of people are like, actually, I like that, because if I'm being a certain way, tell me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I will. Like, I'm the best person. So if I think that you're acting like a dick, I'm going to tell you you're acting like a dick. And then I'll go into why you're acting like it. I'll just tell you everything. But then I'll also come back and go, well, actually, no, like, you can work on this. So it's like this little split personality thing. And they're just like, I don't know where I sit. But yeah, that's like the bipolar side. The PTSD side, people struggle with, funny enough, more. And I never would have thought that, because I could be out, say, let's say for drinks with the girls. I could be out for drinks with the girls and a man could come up that looks like my attacker. You're not getting anything out of me. I've switched. I'm gone. My head's flashed back in. I froze. I'll be physically like this, shaken. All these different things. My husband, bless his heart, sometimes he has to go and pick like my children off from dance classes because I can't physically get in the car. So yeah, I think people struggle more with that because they don't know how to act and they don't know what to say, if that makes sense. Whereas with the bipolar, they know now to just say, Becca, pack it in. Like, stop being the way you're being. But with PTSD, I think you don't necessarily see the effects of PTSD in people often.
Yeah, no, not really.
No, you really don't. And I've never seen it. Like, you obviously have like the people that are in the army, and that's like severe PTSD, and that's how PTSD is portrayed. You've got to have been in the army.
Well, there's a woman on TikTok, and I can't for the life of me remember her name, but she keeps coming up on my feed every once in a while, and she has a fear of her shower because that's how
Yeah.
she got attacked. And it's
Yep.
like she obviously will build herself up to be able to get to the stage of being able to put her head under the water and actually wash herself properly and stuff like that. And then something, the littlest of things, could set her back and she
Trigger. Yeah.
go back to the shower. She can't put her head under the water, otherwise she's gonna freak out, or not even freak out, but just go into a trance of, unfortunately, remembering what had happened.
Absolutely. I get that.
And it's like, I do feel that people that are that transparent and post that kind of content is actually helping some random person
Absolutely.
going
Yeah.
for themselves and understanding that you may take 3 steps forward and 10 steps back, and it's just
Yeah.
a constant back and forth on trying to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
to the place you need to be at.
Oh God, absolutely. Like I have so many triggers, like it's crazy. Luckily a lot of people are aware of them, so we do avoid things that could trigger me. And I'm quite aware of like I won't go back to the area, a certain brand of car, I can't. If I see it, I kind of switch off, which obviously is quite hard because it's a very popular car. So I see it quite a lot. But I'm quite lucky that my attacker's not allowed in my area anymore. And he is still in prison. So thank God I'm pretty good right now, but I don't know how it would be when he's released. That's what scares me. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like some days can be better than others, and other days can be horrendous. It's still a learning curve. But yeah, I don't know how you kind of, being completely honest, I don't know how you kind of fix the PTSD side of thing because medications don't work with PTSD, unfortunately.
I don't think there's, unfortunately, a fix. I think
No.
PTSD is like grief.
Yeah, it
You
is. Yeah.
always, unfortunately, have to live with it. It's just a way of coping with it,
Yeah.
or
How? Yeah.
how to cope, or just if something reminds you of something, how to put yourself in third person, like I try to say. Put yourself in third person and just,
Yeah. Bring yourself back somehow.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's just learning all about that, isn't it? There is therapies and things, and I am on the waiting list for one, but like I said, that was 8 years ago and I'm still on a waiting list. So, yay.
took for my anxiety and depression, it took 3 months with NHS to get to someone. I had one session with them. Then I was off for 2 weeks because it was around the time that I was having my surgery. This was last year for my bariatric surgery. So I had 2 weeks off myself and I pre-warned him. Come back and he was like, okay, yeah, I'm off sick. No, he was on annual leave. Then he was off sick. And he was off sick still, and then still, and then he'd come back, they'd booked
Yeah.
me for an appointment, then he went off sick before my appointment even came up, and I was like, and then it took another 3 months for me to get another appointment, and then at this point, I was on my little bit of a high. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't need it. Let's not waste anyone's time and taxes money type of thing. So I was like, yep, okay, take me off the list. I don't need it. And then about 3 months later, I was like, shit, I need to speak to someone.
Yeah.
And then it's again another 3 months. But then
Waiting. Yep.
you might not get someone straight away. You'll have to wait another 3 months.
Yeah.
So I have unfortunately put it upon myself to actually go find myself a counsellor
Have you?
near my area,
Yeah.
help with the things that I'm struggling with. But now,
Oh, yeah.
because of money, I was gonna do like every week. I'm now having to push it back for like every 2 weeks at the minute. But
Oh, it's so hard,
it
isn't it?
goes a long way, and having
It
someone
does.
to be able to speak to and
Absolutely.
not necessarily understand what you're going through, because not everyone goes through the same
No.
experiences, but having someone that is educated that can navigate you through what you're feeling,
Yeah.
pointers, and she sent me through a lot of kind of like texts.
Yeah.
When you speak to someone and they have done something to hurt you, you need to not focus the blame on that person,
Yeah.
because that'll get their back up. You got to say, I feel this way because of this.
Yeah. And explain it. Yeah.
You could have done this and it wouldn't have been so bad, type of thing. So it's like doing that. And I also love self-help books.
I must admit, I quite like self-help.
have
Yeah.
so many books that I need to read and so many books that I haven't
Yeah.
read. And they're all on top of my wardrobe in this.
Oh.
And it's like the let them theory and all that jazz.
Yeah. All the different theories. It's quite fascinating though, isn't it? Like I do find like mental health in a weird way quite fascinating. And I think it's good though that obviously like it's spoken about a whole lot more
Yeah. It's
now.
not so sheltered.
No.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's not such a taboo kind of thing. It is a lot more open. People are coming out and I quite like that. I think that's really good. Yeah, no, I definitely, like, me personally, I want to try and do a bit more for like PTSD, because like I said, bipolar is spoken about probably more than PTSD in a weird way.
You also get different types of PTSD as well that
Yeah.
aren't, again, talked about, like bipolar,
Mhm.
having two different two different types
Yeah.
of bipolar. You've got different types of PTSD and how that can affect someone in some way and stuff like that. But
Yep.
a lot of self-help books do obviously more stem on the depression and the anxiety and the stress of
Mhm.
life, but I do feel like some of them can relate a little bit into
Mhm.
different kind of mental health
Absolutely. Yeah.
that people are suffering through as well.
Absolutely.
That there's books based around certain different types of mental health.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's always resources out there, and
Oh
obviously
God. Yeah. Definitely. I
if
couldn't agree
this is
more.
out, go to a GP and cry and don't refuse to leave, because that's what I've done once when I was really bad. I just sat there and
Yeah.
cried. I'm like, I need help, and I'm not leaving until I've got
Yeah.
it.
Sometimes that's what you've got to do.
And
That's sometimes what we've got to do.
sometimes people are like, advocate for yourself and speak up. But sometimes, because I'm get so overwhelmed in my brain, I will not speak. I will run.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Literally.
when I feel like they're finally listening to me,
Mhm.
I kind of like get into a bit of a zen,
Yeah.
try and hold everything together so that I can get my words out and they can understand where I'm
Mhm.
coming from. But it
Yeah.
is persistence, unfortunately, is
It
key.
is. You
Or
do have to kind of push a little bit, but you get there in the end.
definitely,
If in doubt, get a second opinion.
or a third, or a fourth.
Yep. Hopefully not, but yeah,
Just keep going.
more than likely you're going to need a good like 6 opinions, but you will get there.
Um,
But yeah.
so any advice for anyone that is suffering, that has been diagnosed or feels like they have got bipolar or
Mhm.
PTSD and haven't unfortunately had a diagnosis yet? Any advice for them on how to, obviously we all know
Mm.
certain things work good for certain
Yeah.
people, other things work good for other people. But if someone's not tried something that you've tried, maybe this might be
Mhm.
helpful for them. So is there anything that you could advise for people?
Um, to be completely honest with you, the only thing I would advise, and it sounds like really what everybody would say, but honestly, reach out to people. If you think you have bipolar, don't think that you're like a bad person, because bipolar doesn't mean you're a bad person. It really, really doesn't. It doesn't mean you're a dangerous person. It doesn't mean that people should be scared of you and run away kind of thing. Like you automatically think, it's so far from that. If you do think that you might have that, reach out to even somebody you're really close to, your GP, the mental health services, just anybody that you can think of that you trust. Or like I said, if you want medication, speak to a doctor. They are there to advise. They will run the tests, the questionnaires, this, that, and the other. They might monitor you, like all these different things. Just do it. The PTSD, a lot of people actually have PTSD and don't realize they have it. So it could be like nightmares, flashbacks, hot sweats, even just shaking, anxiety. Once again, speak to somebody. Don't suffer in silence, because that does not make it any better. It doesn't. It makes it worse. And speaking out is probably the best thing that you could possibly do for yourself.
Definitely. Well, moving on to the next topic of conversation, you wanted to speak about being a SEN parent.
Yeah.
So, for the people that don't know what SEN
Yep.
is, if you'd like to go into that,
Yeah.
along with what needs your child or
Mhm.
children have.
Okay. SEN is special educational needs. So ADHD, autism. Can't think of the top of my head because my mind's gone completely blank. Asperger's, I think, is one. Funny enough, actually, I learned that going back on that, I've actually learned recently that the mental health side to it actually falls under SEN, which I never thought was a thing, but apparently it falls into two different categories. But yes, I have two children. One is autistic, my youngest child. She is very clearly autistic, has been very clear from the age of 1.5, was diagnosed very early. My middle child is diagnosed autistic, but more based around food, so like Afrid and that. But she's very, very clearly ADHD. So she's quite high functioning ADHD, but mild autism, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. But yeah, my eldest isn't SEN, but my two youngest are.
So how did you, one, realise yourself
Mhm.
that they had some sort of special need, and how did you go about getting them a diagnosis?
So my 9-year-old has always had attachment issues, problems around food, like I just said. She is very full on, doesn't listen, up and down, doesn't sit, is very forgetful, loses everything. Everything is lost. Everything gets lost. And we've always kind of suspected it with her. All her teachers are basically, unfortunately, she's a little bit behind her age level for school educationally. Now she's starting to struggle with education. Wasn't a thing until about a year ago. Only now are the school listening and recognizing things. But we've known from the get-go with her, she's been quite clear ADHD, not autism, ADHD. I've just known. I had this gut feeling. She was just my wild child, is what I call her. No dangers. Oh my God, that girl will just run. And she's also extremely honest to anybody.
Right.
Anybody. Yeah. I've had to apologise to a few strangers previously because of the things that she can say without thinking. Yeah, just said it.
Diarrhea, as I call it.
Yes. But yeah, my youngest, I never really kind of knew with her. I just thought she was your typical toddler. Something didn't sit right with me, but I just didn't know what. And then we done the 2-year health check, the health visitor,
Mm-hmm.
and they do a tick sheet, mild thing. And it's like, I can't remember what it was out of because it was obviously 2 years ago, but it was like, say, out of 100, if your child scores under that threshold, then it's classed as your typical 2-year-old or below. If they go over that, then there's something not quite right. She tripled it.
Right.
Yep. Didn't expect that whatsoever. But I was, funny enough, picking up on her change of personality is the only way I could explain it. And whilst our health visitor was there, she very clearly noted what I was telling her. She was displaying it. She is not as outgoing. She's very reserved, very quiet, selective mute. And then they made a referral. They done the assessment and they very clearly picked autism up with her, which was quite a shock for us. But the more my health visitor told me about it, the more that I started learning about autism. And then I realised, actually, yeah, she is quite high functioning autism, as they call it that. Yeah, she's hard work, bless her.
So my mum is a foster carer. Before that,
Okay.
she was respite for kids with disabilities. She
Okay.
looked after a couple of kids for a weekend, for a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Her social worker was doing a routine checkup and was like, "I have this little boy. I'm struggling to place him in a placement of any
Mhm.
kind at the minute." My mum was tried moving the subjects back onto her and trying to get this like routine
Yeah.
out of the way, and her social worker just kept going on and on and on. And my mum was like, "I'm not trained in any way, shape, or form for this, but
Yeah.
if you want a place, we will have him." It was only meant to be for, I think, a year, not even
Mhm.
that. He was 3, I think, when he come to us,
Yeah.
16, and
Oh,
he's
wow.
stayed with my mum.
Oh, my gosh.
He came to us with no speech, no being able to dress,
Mm.
wash, go to the toilet. He was in pull-up still and all that jazz.
Mhm.
He unfortunately has like learning disabilities as well. But within a year, my mum had got him to be able to speak some words,
Wow.
not
Yeah.
not really string a sentence
Yeah.
together, but he could tell you biscuit or something like that.
Mhm.
Food, not.
That's still amazing, though.
And we toilet trained him.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
taught him how to do shoes. They were only Velcro shoes, but it's still a
a
milestone.
massive achievement. Yeah.
And then from that point onwards, he just kind of like grew.
Oh.
He's not non-verbal. He can speak.
Mhm.
He just chooses not to. So whenever we go out, I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, how are you? Are you all right?" And he'll be like, "Yeah. What
Yeah.
did you say?" walk.
That sounds like the selective mute, which is what my daughter does. Yeah.
And there was a lot of traits when I feel like he still does them a lot to be fair. So he
Mhm.
has his feet go in,
Mhm.
and that was due to him not walking properly
Yeah.
for a couple of years.
Mhm.
So his feet haven't formed properly, but he is always on his tiptoes,
Yes.
always. And he used to walk around in circles, jiggling his fingers
Yeah.
like this. He will still do all them things,
Mhm.
but he will now grab his iPad and smack it when he walks around
Oh,
with.
really?
So
Yeah.
instead of jiggling your fingers like this, because he's playing his game, he's kind of like jiggling the back of it.
Yeah.
So his autistic traits are very much still there.
Mhm. I don't think they ever go. They just might switch up a little bit.
Yeah, they might change,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
so either they'll get worse or they'll get better.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a kind of like rewarding thing to see a child
Yes.
go from one to the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
And even though I resented having him at first, because when we first got him, I was 12. So
Very
all
difficult. Well,
all the focus shift from me being an only child. This is going to sound really obnoxious,
no, no, it doesn't.
but being an only child to then having
Mhm.
a special needs foster child, and then everyone's direction is just on that, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
what about hey, I'm still here.
Yeah. So difficult. I can imagine, honestly. Like, I think that's how my eldest is incredible. She's absolutely unbelievable. For some reason, she's always drawn like send children to her. She's just got this aura about. I've always said she is going to be working in a SEN school or a SEN nursery with children. She wants to be a pediatric nurse, and I was like, do it, because she is amazing with children. And she seems to be a massive calm down for the youngest daughter. Not the middle one, they fight like cat and dog. The youngest one, so she took it really well. My 9-year-old and the 4-year-old, they clash massively. Just a clash of personalities. They're so opposite. But yeah, it is one of those, and I think my middle daughter has struggled more than anybody because she is full on. She does my youngest hits and attacks, and she can hurt herself, and we have to kind of not restrain her, but we do kind of have to hold her just to keep her safe. And she's very unpredictable. She could be very, very good one day, and the next minute is just a complete danger. So we
Yeah.
have had to make a lot of adjustments as a family as well, mainly for her, because she's just, like I said, very unpredictable. You never know what you're going to get with her. But I definitely, I get it. I think, like I said, my middle definitely sometimes feels she might be pushed out a little bit. She isn't, but to her, she probably is. So I do understand that. And to be honest, I understand that because I had sisters when I was 13 and 14 years old. So I was an only child too. And then all of a sudden I got 2 sisters. That was fun.
Send them back. I don't want.
Yeah, don't want them. Now I wouldn't change them for the world. But at the time I was like, why? You don't need more children. There's me. That's all you need. But looking back on it, I was quite a difficult child. So I think my mum wanted 2 good kids. It's fine.
No, sometimes it's normally how it works. You'll have one, and then you'll wait
Mm.
until they're relatively grown up, and then you'll
Mhm.
be like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready for the next.
That's what I
And
did. Yeah.
sometimes that's how it works. Others go, okay, I've got one, I want another one now. Get
Yeah.
all the terrible twos and tantrums and all that out of the way, and then never have to deal with it again.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that. I don't know why, but I waited until each child ended up starting school and restarted the clock again. And yeah, that's why this time I was like, sterilize me. I don't want that option. I don't want to do it again. I can't. So yeah, no, but I wouldn't change it for the world at all. Wouldn't change them for the world either. So all fun and game.
Don't have any kids yet, but
I like how you said yet.
I've told my partner it's on the cards.
Ooh,
Well, to be fair, I think that was one of the first conversations we had. Like,
really?
I was like, before this goes anywhere else, I want
Yeah.
marriage and I want kids. Do you want it? Because if not, there's no point in
Not
going.
gonna work. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, just not yet. And then, not gonna lie, I think I've worn him down a little bit because he was, oh, I don't want my first until I'm 30. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, I want mine now. Like, I
Mhm.
Like, I want kids now because I want to grow up with my kids, not
Yeah,
be like 40 and crippled and not be able to enjoy life with the
yeah,
kids. So
that's what Red did. Yeah.
I kind of like, I think I've talked him down a little bit, but I don't know exactly.
I did it though. I wanted to be a younger mum. Yeah.
Me and my friend, we keep tagging each other in posts on Facebook in regards to marriage. And
Oh, okay.
there's a thing, I found it, to be fair, she found it on Facebook and tagged me in it. And it
Yeah.
turns out it's a documentary on Netflix about people on the spectrum or something like that.
Yeah. Love on the Spectrum, is it?
On the
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
And there's a little snippet going something like, I want to get married. When are we going to get married? Soon. When?
Oh, yeah. Very precise.
And stuff like that. And it the way he was answering it, I was like, this is Kyle. This is Kyle's answer. Every time I ask or
Yeah.
like, not yet, later, soon. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
and she tagged me in it, and I was like, this is legit, Kyle. I was like, and she tagged
Yeah.
Kyle in it as well.
Oh,
And he found
did you
it,
see it?
he saw it, and he found it
Did it?
funny, and he was like, yeah, that's me. And I was like,
Yeah, he admits it. Yeah.
give up.
At least he admits it. That's good though. At least he admits it.
So, what support have you had with obviously being a SEN parent in regards
Mhm.
to friendships, families, school, doctors?
Friends have been amazing. Family have been amazing. Doctors have been pretty good. We have had a lot of support. We've had like early help. We've had a company called Together for Parents. Obviously, health visitors. We've had so much support. I've done all the courses. I've done everything that I can do. I can't do any more. School, on the other hand, absolutely awful.
I
Not
can
gonna lie. I am in a constant fight with the school. They will 1 minute tell me that she's educationally behind. Unfortunately, she has attacked peers before, my 9-year-old. She's disruptive. She's a naughty child, in quotation. But then when it comes to filling out the necessary paperwork, they never include any of this. So very often, I call it failing her. They have failed her religiously and very recently failed her again. It doesn't make sense to me how a child has to show their difficulties in two settings. I've never understood that. And unfortunately now paediatricians cannot diagnose children unless they are showing it in their school setting, which my child is. They just aren't telling them she is, even though I have the emails and I've provided the emails and I've done everything I need to be doing. So yeah, they very recently failed and they drive me up the wall. I'm going to be completely honest. And yeah, I'm stuck now at a loss. And to be completely honest with you, I've got to a point where it's like, well, actually, a diagnosis for ADHD isn't going to make a difference because even though she's diagnosed with autism, they don't help her.
Yeah. So they're not helping her with the already diagnosed.
Yeah, yeah, we get no support.
Even if you do eventually get the ADHD diagnosed,
She's not going to get that.
it's not going to change a thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's not going to change anything. So a part of me sits there and goes, what am I gaining from this? Nothing really. And she isn't really either. Realistically, I just thought it might have helped her. But they've very clearly shown that it ain't going to make a difference. They've already branded her a naughty child, even though she isn't. So I have got to a point where it's like, maybe I need to wait until secondary school because that's the only thing that does scare me is I don't think she's going to cope. And that's the only thing that makes me go, actually, I should really continue fighting this. Because yes, they might not be helping her now become GCSEs, secondary school, etc., friendships, all of these different things that she is struggling with now. What is that going to be like when it's in a more strict environment, more routine, isn't it? I'd say secondary school.
More strict,
Yeah, it's more structural.
getting ready for the business life and
Yeah.
having things in place, needing to kind of like do as you
Yeah. And her problem is obviously she listens but can't retain it and switches off. And she is disruptive because she can't sit still. She's up and down. She has fidget toys. And they then, because she's got a fidget toy, and she's distracted by the fidget toy. And it's like, take the fidget toy off her then. Let's see if that helps. But yeah, there's all the she struggles with friendships already. And yeah, and I just sit there and think, well, actually, I know the secondary school is a lot harsher than primary school. So a part of me is like, okay, I should keep fighting. But there does come a point where it's like, am I ever going to get heard? Is she ever going to get heard?
I'm assuming she's in a mainstream school. Is
Yeah.
there any fighting to getting her into a special needs school at all?
I preferably want to avoid it.
Right.
I don't want her in a special needs unless she really needed it. I don't want that. She is on a SEN register. And then I know the next step in it is, I don't know what they're called, EHCP, I think it is. But to be completely honest, I want to avoid all of that if I can, because I do want her to try and understand herself. If she can't, fair enough, I get that. And I will thoroughly do what I need to do. But I think this is how I was brought up to understand myself. As you know, I was kind of touched upon that. So maybe I'm doing that in some sense for her in the future, but also I do want that diagnosis for her to understand herself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I do think without that, she's going to be like I was and never quite get why she's the way she is, if that makes sense. You know, I don't want a special education school. If I can avoid it, then I will avoid it. Yeah.
My brother, he was in a mainstream school. He actually attended my primary school.
Okay.
And he was a little shit. He was dreadful.
Oh.
He would escape.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had at one point this kind of like climbing frame thing, and on the top of it, it was a bit of a box. It had something to get on at the top.
Yeah.
And he would climb up to the top of that and refuse to get down. He
Yes.
would kick and scream as soon as someone said no to something. He would have to be, and I'm going to have to use the word restrained, because he would
Yeah.
be held until he calmed
Yeah.
down and understand that you can't
Mm-hmm.
talk like that. And the amount of time, energy, reports,
Yeah. Paperwork.
meetings, paperwork that
Yeah.
my mum, the school, the social workers, because
All
I
that. Yep.
was fostered, so we had
Yeah.
social workers, to get him into a special needs school
Yeah.
in the first place was horrendous.
Yeah.
Sometimes depending on how bad they are, the special school isn't always necessarily the best, because
Yeah.
with a mainstream school, if they've got a SEN child, they get an extra member of staff or whatever it is, or extra funding, extra help. And he had like a one-to-one teacher in the mainstream school, whereas when he went to a special school, I do believe, I'm not too sure how they function, but I'm going to assume there's more than one teacher in the room, but it wasn't one-to-one care.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a lot of reports of a mark on his face because
Another child
he
or
threw
something.
something at a child and they threw something back at him. But then they never understood that for my brother to retaliate in that kind of way, something had been done or said for him to have done that in the first place.
Yeah.
And like reports were coming back half done or with
that's the problem.
detail. And it was
I've
like,
heard that a lot.
there was a situation, not going to obviously name any names. I don't even know any names. One other pupil had said something to my brother for him to then have thrown something at that child, and then they have thrown something back and then cried wolf. And it's like, it's one of them situations. So just because someone is placed into a special needs school doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that a lot, funny enough, from people.
He is now obviously he's 16, so he's in a secondary school. And again, you still get stupid reports of my brother kicked this person, he's done this to this person, someone said this and this has been said, and it's like, where does it stop?
Yep.
Or where does someone nip something in the bud?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Either
What happened? Yeah.
them two people together
Yeah.
and chat with them constantly, or remove them out of the room.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. Yep.
It's just like, it mind boggles me on how
Yeah.
the system, any system at the minute, fails any child, no matter if they're mainstream or
Yeah.
SEN. It just fails.
Absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't agree anymore with you. I really, really couldn't agree anymore. It's nothing but fighting and stress, and it shouldn't be. Like, and I do get that they've had a massive influx, but that's because people are talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, people are realizing actually this is actually probably a lot more. There's different varieties of it. Like, obviously, I'm more open necessarily to my youngest having to go to a special school because she's a lot more hard work, full on. She does need a lot more engagement, but there is ways around it. Like, she might actually thrive. She's very clever, and she is very isolated and this, that, and the other. So she might just kind of shut herself off from the world and just switch off, get on with it. Whereas obviously my other daughter is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And there's certain children in her class that she clashes with. And I just move her to the other class. That would probably solve all of your problems, but they just won't do it. It's like, I don't know what you want me to do. Come and pick her up from school. Well, I can't just come and get her.
Jobs, lives. It's like my mum, she works within school hours purposely for,
Yeah.
she cooks in a school, so house, which is 2 doors down.
Yeah.
And then my mum finishes work at, let's say, like 1:30, 2.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard.
With buses and everything like that, it varies between drop-off time, but she's also got enough time to go in for a school meeting if it's needed, type of thing. And it's
Yeah.
just, for her to be able to have that job is it's very hard to come by for a lot of
Very.
parents.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, fair enough. Ask me
Mhm.
to pick up my kid, but 9 times out of 10, because of the job
Yeah.
that I have, I probably won't be able to do it.
I'll do it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. I work part time in a nursery and I can't just leave the nursery.
Well,
You can't just do it. Do you know what I
like,
mean? I can't just get up and go because actually we've got the amount of staff or the amount of children ratio. Like, I can't just get up and go. So you deal with her. I'll deal with her when I pick her up because that's all I can do. Sometimes it's okay, but quite a lot of the time I'm like, I can't do it. I can't just leave because I'll lose my job. So yeah, the joys.
briefly, this last question: how has all this obviously affected you, mentally, physically, emotionally? Has it affected you financially?
So I'd probably say emotionally it's been very difficult, very difficult. One day could be really, really good and the next could be really, really bad. More for the fighting aspect of being
Mhm.
home. Financially, yes, it has been quite hard because my youngest does require quite a lot, but I get on with it, I deal with it. I've got good family if need be. Do you know what I mean? They will always help out if need be. And I've just kind of got on with it, if I'm completely honest with you. I don't necessarily think about how it has impacted me. I think it's just mum mine. And I just kind of,
You realise it's happening, but you don't.
yeah,
You just pick yourself up and go, okay, what do I fight for next?
yeah,
Do I fight for it next? Type of
yeah.
thing.
But being completely honest with you, I do have my days where I sit there and I go, why me? Like, why? What have I done to deserve this kind of thing? But then I sit there and think, well, actually, no, I've got these children because clearly I can deal with these kind of children. So I count it as a blessing, and it has shaped me into being a better person as well and more understanding. So there is the negatives, the pros and the cons of it. But yeah, I wouldn't change it at all if I'm completely honest with you. Maybe the fighting with the school I would, but not them at all.
No, completely agree.
Yes, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And I enjoyed it.
All right, I'll see you next
Yes.
time.
See you later. Bye.
I would like to thank Becca for coming on and speaking to us about her bipolar, PTSD, and being a SEN parent. If you haven't caught part 1 already, please go ahead and do so. If you have a story, big or small, please don't hesitate to get in contact with me via email, lifewithjode@gmail.com, or via my socials, which is at Life with Jode Official. You can watch my podcast on Podbean, Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I even do a video version over on my YouTube channel, Life with Jode. And that's a wrap from me. I'll see you next time in another episode of Life with Jode. Bye!